want to get a call back from their company and to work with them and get analytics and data on each lead that's coming through the website. So we work with guys like Jaguar, Starwood, Marriott, and a few other companies, but primarily with about 1,400 SMEs. And so that's just a little bit on me and what I've done. So what we're going to talk about is, for people in the ideation stage, I want to mention a couple points at the beginning for things that I wish someone had told me before we had started, and things that you want to consider. So I've spoken to a lot of people about their app ideas, and there are a few points that I notice a lot of people don't think about before they create a business or before they start. Then I'm going to tell you about our Lucep's first 100 customers, which was our beta cohort, and what we learned from there, and some of the lessons that I hope, and mistakes that we made so that you guys don't make those same mistakes. And then I'm going to talk about the channels that can help you generate leads and traction, and the idea that, what to look for, and for each of the channels that I'll talk about, like a takeaway that you can go and try for your business tomorrow or the day after. So, let's start. Now, what is this? Really, what I want to talk about is, everybody comes up with the idea of a business because they have a problem they're trying to solve, right? But what you want to be is, you want to be this guy who's already found his customers and he knows that there's a demand for it. So before you write a single line of code, find people that want to buy this, find people that are interested. Don't sort of just think in your isolation chamber that because I have this problem, that naturally this is always going to be a problem. You don't want to be this guy who's running around and chasing people, because that is exhausting. You want to stand still and have everybody come to you, right? And that's only going to come if people know that there's actually a problem. These are the two questions that you really need to answer, right? And the only way you're going to be able to answer those questions is by talking to people, because do people need this? A lot of people need a lot of stuff, but it's not necessary that they're always going to pay for it. And trust me, when you start asking people for money, you will find out how hard it is to even get $1 out of people that don't see value in the product. So make sure that not only do the people need it, but are they willing to pay for it? So, traction. That's really what we're here to talk about, right? And how to get a little bit of traction for your business. Now, traction is a wonderful, magical, beautiful thing, and it actually solves a lot of problems that startups have. You have a hiring problem? Do you have a funding problem? Do you have a partnership problem? Do you have, media problem? Having traction solves all of that. So that's why this is really so important to understand, how do you get this? Obviously scalable is a word that you're going to hear on every single stage over these 2 days, and it's like the prime driver for all startups. Is this scalable? Can it be scalable? Is that scalable? What you're going to do for your first 100, decidedly non-scalable. If it means that you've got to go out to every developer meet in town for 6 months, that's not scalable when you're hitting 100 million MRR. But you've got to find those ways to generate that business. So you've got to work really hard to do it, and it's not always going to be the scalable way. I personally have gone door to door in industrial parks selling this tool. Now, to have your co-founder spend his time doing that, not the most valuable time, but it did get us a whole bunch of customers. And I just want to elaborate that when I say 100 customers, what I mean is that you don't know these people. So they're not your friends, they're not your family, and you don't have their phone number or business card. These are brand new people that are finding your company, have found value in it, and don't just like you or trust you because of you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the beta package, what we went through at Lucep, and by we, I'm pointing to my co-founder, so that's why I'm just gesturing over here. But the idea is that we made a lot of mistakes with this, and some of the mistakes I'm going to share with you here so that you can learn. But we called our first 100 customers our beta cohort, right? So they were the first guys that we kind of released our product into the wild with, and they weren't our friends. So They were total strangers who we were trying to convince to pay us some money. This is probably one of the most important things. When we started, I was so busy trying to sell anybody that I spoke to that I think my parents stopped inviting me to a bunch of dinner parties because I would ask all of their friends, like, what business are you in, and do you have an inbound strategy, and can I demo my app for you? And I turned it into a pitch, right? But really, you're not selling to these 100. What you're trying to do is learn from them. You want to learn how they use the product, learn who benefits within their company, who is taking the most advantage of it, and that's going to help guide you as to how to build your product in the future and how to create it, right? So just remember that learning is a really important part of this, and it's not all about selling. The buyer persona. How many people know what this is? No? Nobody in this room full of tech people don't know what a buyer persona is? Okay, so who are you selling to within the company? Our app helps you generate sales. Naturally, when we first started, we thought that the people that this would most benefit are salespeople. And it does benefit salespeople. Salespeople are our users. But salespeople aren't our buyers, and they're not the people that control the budget. So we started with a sales persona, but realized that we had to move to a marketing persona because the marketing people were the guys that actually control the website, control leads, and can have the budget to authorize a transaction. Sales guys, they don't care about anything except where are these leads and how do I close them. So understand who in the business is your user as opposed to the person that's going to buy the product. You gotta love these 100 people or these companies. And I mean love them because they are gonna be your QA testing, they are gonna be your customers, they are gonna be your beta testers, they're gonna be your social proof. They're literally gonna be everything to your company is gonna be in these 100. You should know, how did they get to you? How did they find you? What was their journey? How has their experience been? Who are their kids? What is their wife's name? Where do they like to holiday? Know everything about them, because that's going to help you understand who are your next 1,000 customers are going to be. Right. So this is what you're looking for in your customers to help grow, right? On the left, you've got a successful customer, and on the right, you've got a happy customer, right? Do you know which one's more important? Anyone? Shout it out. No? Your happy customer is not the most important. Because a happy customer is usually buying because they like you, they like your company, or they believe in what you're talking about. But that person might leave the company. And if that champion leaves the company, they might not see a reason why they should have your product. A successful customer will never ever question why they're using your product because your product has already proven value to them. They are the ones that you're going to write case studies about. They're the ones that are going to tell their friends. A happy customer just likes you because you might be a nice guy, and that's great. But where you have a successful customer, that's what's really important, and those are the guys that you got to focus on helping to grow and build. This is something, again, I wish I did, right? Asking for advice. It's probably the most valuable thing you can do as a new company. You know why? Because advice is free, and everybody loves to give it. It makes them feel like they're important, that somebody's asking you for it. And you can call up the CEO of a company, you can ask him, hey, I'd like to take you out for a coffee because I've got a new product for your industry, and I would love to get your guidance and feedback on that. And chances are, he'll say yes, as opposed to, I have a product and I want to sell it to your business. Then he's going to come up with a whole bunch of excuses. So basically, if you're going to approach these people, ask them for what they think. They're smart guys. If they can see a use for your product within their company, they'll approach you. If they can see a use for your product in somebody else's company, they'll introduce you, right? But at the same time, asking for advice more than selling is extremely valuable. Now, this is, again, in the last talk, they talked about virality and spreading. And going viral isn't like having your corporate video watched 10 million times on YouTube. And although that's really nice, going viral is a sustained system of creating new customers with little of effort from your half. So if you look at guys like Dropbox is probably the most famous example where they, if you share them or or email a friend, they'll give you 250 megabytes. The other one that I remember reading was about the founder of Hotmail. And Hotmail was like the original viral marketing, where they used to put that tagline at the bottom of every email, which said, for a free web-based email, click here. And there's a story that the co-founder says of how he sent one person an email in India, and within 2 months they had something like 10,000 Indian customers. And that was all just from one email being sent and then people spreading it. So can your product, what are the levers that you can control to make people want to spread this? Is it time? Is it users? Is it space? What do you have that costs you nothing but is valuable to the user? For us, we give away users, because if you want to have 1, 5, 10, 15 users, the cost for us is marginal, right? But to help you spread that and to help you bring them on, it's valuable to the customer. What are you doing to get people's attention, right? What is that? How are you reaching out and grabbing that person and grabbing your customer's attention, right? Whether it's a lead or whatever it might be, what are you doing to do it? In one of my old companies, we actually went to a conference, and everybody that we talked to that we thought could be interested in, we gave them a card. And the card said, this is good for 1 free beer at the after party. And I can't tell you how many people came up to us and traded in that card for a beer. So it got us an opportunity of 20 minutes to sit down with a prospective lead over a beer and talk to them about our idea, instead of the craziness that goes on at a conference. We started our whole European clients with that one conference, and we picked up so many because they just wanted to get drunk for free. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about now are some of the channels that we've used, and there are a lot, so I'm just going to pick the ones that we focus on and work with, and I've just been given 10 minutes, so I'm going to speed this up a little. Good thing to keep in mind, do you have money or are you broke ass, right? Because that's going to have an impact on what channels you pick and how much money you spend on each and how many experiments you can run. The other thing I want to talk to you about is active users versus just users, right? Getting an article in the New York Times might be great, but you'll get 5,000 people that will sign up, and that will make you feel amazing. But when 4,990 churn in the next month, you're going to want to kill yourself, right? So picking a channel which gives you active users is really important. So this is the most basic thing, right? Your SEO, your blog, you need that from day one. Irrespective of whether you think it's going to help or not, you need to get this started. And what you're going to find with your blog is that it'll take 6, 9, 12 months before you start seeing traction and seeing business, but it's worth it, right? One of the things that I'll caution you about the blog, like I said earlier, with the sales and marketing, our first 6 months of our blog, and you can go and read it and see the mistake for yourself, our first 6 months is all sales. Then after that, we realized we need to talk to marketing people, so we shifted the focus of the blog to helping marketers. And then what we realized is that we needed to help people that knew what they were looking for but couldn't find it, so we attacked the bottom of the funnel with our blog. And in each case, we saw a step up in terms of the number of users or active users that signed up from these blog posts. SEM is a lot easier to manage than SEO, but this is just, you pay money and you turn it on. But one of the things that I'll suggest is if you're a new startup and you're trying to compete against a bigger company, one of the tips is you're not going to be able to attack that company just on their name or on their keywords. But if you use, for example, competitor name alternative, competitor name pricing, and you buy these keywords over those types of phrases, you're going to be able to attract people who are looking for your competitors but might be dissuaded to use your product, or might be persuaded, not dissuaded, persuaded to use your product. Social media, everybody loves it. There are about 1,000 different ones you can use. My advice to you, pick 3 and do those 3 well and know why you're using those 3, right? Almost 100% of our inbound social media leads all come from LinkedIn, right? Facebook, Twitter don't do anything for us. But it's important for us to be there because influencers are on Facebook and Twitter. our potential investors, our partners, they're all on these channels, but we know what we are using each channel for. LinkedIn is our source of like new prospects, and Facebook we talk to usually our partners, and that's how we communicate with them. Media, I mean, that's what this is about, Tech in Asia. I can't tell you how much being featured in them has helped us and boost us. But for a tech company, it's about building credibility. And one of the things that we learned to do is that, yeah, everybody wants to be in the Straits Times, but try talking to a Straits Times reporter and seeing if you've got a story angle there. It's difficult because everybody's going for that. But one of the tips that I'll give you is that a lot of big news articles or big news media will use smaller channels as their like how they find their sources and leads. So if you know someone that's covering the SME or the business area for the Straits Times, go find them on Twitter and see who they follow. Because I bet they follow a bunch of smaller blogs and other news sites that may be easier for you to get an article into. And then that reporter will see you in that article, and then hopefully that will filter up and will give you access to a wider scale. And that can be an easy and cheap way of kind of hacking your PR. What are your competitors' pain points? What do your current competitors' users hate about that company? Go on Quora, go on Twitter, comment, write about these things, and write that you solve this particular problem that they're looking for. That channel will give you leads for months and months on end, because every business has its problems. And if you can solve Salesforce's problems, if you can solve Microsoft's problems, you're going to help. There are going to be a bunch of people that are looking for that problem to be solved as well, and you should be able to solve that. Now, I'm not going to go through all these channels because there are a lot, but what I'll do is I'll give you a bit of advice. We use this book called Traction. It sits on my desk as like the holy Bible of how to get customers. And the advice that it gives you is basically for every single channel, come up with one tactic, one strategy that you can use. If you can come up and brainstorm more, that's great. Go through all of them. Pick 4 or 5 that you think can really move the needle in terms of your users and your customer acquisition, right? Run small, cheap experiments to get you one channel. Your goal in this is to find you a single channel that's going to give you the most number of leads. Milk that channel for as long as you can, and then find the next one, right? But at the beginning, you've got limited time, limited money, and limited resources to be spreading. So you want to run cheap, short experiments with 4 or 5 channels to see where you get the best ROI, where you get the best response, and then pick the one you get the best response in the shortest time. That's really got to be your goal. So just to finish up, like if you're going to only remember 5 things from this, don't learn from your 100, don't sell to them, right? And love them like they're your own children, because they're going to be the ones that are going to be promoting you. Ask for advice, ask frequently, ask often, and use it as a way to sell, right? Run mini experiments on your shortlisted channels and try to get an understanding in a cheap way of how you can benefit from these channels. And your goal with just your first 100, right, is to find the one main channel and milk that channel till you run out of options for it, and then do the process again and find another channel that it works. And remember that what gets you 10 customers is not what's going to get you 100 customers. It's not what's going to get you 1,000 or 10,000. Adapting, changing, growing, and understanding about how your customers are coming on board is really what's going to help you. So that's it. I'm looking over here to see if I have time. Questions? No? Yes? Maybe not. I think maybe. Are there any questions? Just before no? It's such an amazing presentation that I answered every question that you could possibly have. Yeah? One? Okay, cool. So we have... All right, why don't you just yell it now?
Test.
Hi.
So the basic question is, right, like, for example, there could be some offline businesses, right, which you think those customers are not online in like Facebook, Twitter, or something like that. In those cases, the only way is to reach them manually. I mean, is there any other way? For example, there could be like small and medium enterprises, like which are like small retail stores, right? Like, how do you approach them? I mean, what kind?
Okay, so I mean, fair enough. And for me, I'm only speaking from an SME SaaS point of view, right? But if you're trying to reach smaller businesses that might not be dominant online, you have to get in their mind, right? You have to understand where they're coming from, where do they go for problems, right? I know that one of the industries I used to work in was the AV industry, which is very old school, that kind of style. And all of them used to get together at a coffee shop and just talk shit and complain. And if you know that that's what you're going to do, that's where you got to go. You got to end up where your customers are, no matter where they are. But at the end of the day, everybody's online. So you have to find out what are they doing online to reach them, right? To try to attract them. I mean, I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah.
More questions? Nice.
Hi Zal. How much money do you spend on a mini experiment? What's the magic number?
I mean, it really depends on, that broke versus cashed up slide, right? So if you're broke, like the number that I've heard is like $1,000, $2,000. So if you're gonna spend it on AdWords or Facebook, that's the kind of number that I would be looking at trying to consolidate it in. If you can do it in less than 1,000, great. But I think for less than 1,000, you're gonna struggle to see sort of results from that. You need to spend enough money so that you actually have quantifiable results that you can then extrapolate for larger sums.
All right, this will be the last question.
Your sum of 1,000 to 2,000, is that over a month or 2 months? And how much money do you put aside a day?
So that's over the course of the experiment. So the experiment might last 3 weeks, it might last a month. So for example, going to a conference might be an experiment. And that is not necessarily going to happen over a month or 2 months, that's going to happen over 2 days. Or getting a booth at a conference, you might want to test that as a method of attracting new customers, right? But that's going to cost money because you're going to need marketing materials, you're going to need to pay for the booth, transport, whatever it might be. So I'm very hesitant to put it in terms of time. You might want to look at it if you're looking at AdWords and spending on advertising, maybe a month, because that gives you a good time frame to test whether it's working or not and to make adjustments. But for each channel, you got to look at the experiment and think about what the timing is, for that specific experiment. So like, for example, going door to door and knocking on businesses and trying to convince them, not going to cost you a lot of money, may cost you a lot of time, right? So you have to kind of balance that out as well. And I think we're okay. All right, thanks a lot, guys. I hope that was slightly useful.